thanks to you and your suggestions, I'm doing this video as an explanation of how I got into the tool business, where we are today, and where we're going from here. And I want to thank Daniel G., one of my viewers. I appreciate the input. You're the last guy to make the suggestion of doing a video like this, so I decided, well, if there's enough guys who want this, I'd be happy to do the video for you. And keep the suggestions coming, because I'm always looking for subject matter, and I want this channel to be what you want it to be, because it's going to keep you watching and hopefully grow the channel from here. So thank you for the suggestion, Daniel. And here's a little history about Coyle tools. Before I got into this as a business, I was an IT director for about 20 years. Hit a glass ceiling at the director level and wasn't really interested in going above that, because honestly, the level of BS that in an organization only increases the higher up you get. And I had enough of a distaste for corporate America at this point to really want to pursue anything in it. I was tired of working for people who had ego and arrogance as their motivators. I was tired of trying to play political games that I did not understand how to play. I am not the kind of person who is a yes man. I don't sugarcoat stuff. I don't like using the word I speak truth to power, but I do. In other words, I'll speak my mind to anyone. I don't care how high up an organization they are. That's not always really well received. Yeah, come to find. Who knew? So I got tired of being in environments like that. I'm very proud of a lot of the stuff that I did accomplish. I managed some very good teams of people, and we got done some very substantial projects in my years there. And we did some things that really felt good. And I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed business process. And I enjoy coming in on the ground floor, say a startup company. But I also really like coming in on a larger company, because there's always growth potential there. And it's fun to identify where that is and make that all come to fruition. I really like managing people. I think that building a team is a lot of fun, because you get a chance to hone your own skills at managing. I think you get there's a bunch of different management methodologies you can adopt. I think the one that I adopted was very beneficial and particularly productive, because I always believe in bottom-up management, where you take your cues from your staff and let them really manage their own areas while you're just kind of overseeing the whole thing, removing obstacles from their success, helping them succeed, being a buffer between them and my management and all the rest of it. So I really enjoyed that. And I enjoy identifying business process, making business efficiencies. And what I had taken to heart was something that Mike Rowe had said. I think it was in an interview I heard with him in it. Mike Rowe, as I'm sure you know, maybe the world's biggest advocate for blue-collar employment. He hosted the show Dirty Jobs. He narrates the show Deadliest Catch. And he's had a few other shows over the years. And he started his own foundation. I think that they give tuition to people learning trades. And that was his big thing, was learn trade. Go to community college. You don't need a 4-year degree to be successful in a lot of areas in your life, and or be an apprentice. Whatever it takes to learn a trade, because we need them desperately, and there's not enough people to fulfill them. There's this huge employment gap, and people are constantly force-fed the idea you got to go to a 4-year college, get a degree, and then do what? You're getting way over your head in debt, and you don't really get any marketable skills. And then you're walking in an entry-level position somewhere saddled with debt that you may never pay off. Whatever. But he said something that really struck home with me, and that was, he said there's some really successful people who realize that it doesn't always make sense to follow your dreams, to follow your passion, or to chase that dream job, because you may never find that dream job. He said, instead, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, instead he goes, find an opportunity and bring your passion with you. I got that, right? That made all the sense in the world to me. And where my passion is business process and building businesses, I'm like, well, how can I apply that? Well, I was umpiring men's baseball and high school ball, and before one game, my umpiring partner, who was a Mac tools dealer, asked me about, what do you do for a living? And we didn't really know each other very well, so we started chatting, and I told him I was frustrated. And he said, well, why don't you sell tools for a living? I said, why would I do that? And it didn't make any sense to me at all. I didn't realize anything about the market or the demographic or the customer base. And he explained a few things to me, and it kind of made sense, but I didn't like vendors very much because I spent way too much time dealing with vendors myself in my IT career, and I hated them all because they were constantly hard selling us stuff. And I didn't like that idea. And I said, well, I don't really want to do that. I said, I don't like vendors. He said, well, it's not really like that. And I said, that seems kind of it is, though. What's it like? And he told me his take on things. And what I did not realize at the time was that he stood to benefit from having me come on board Mac because he stood to get a significant signing bonus by recruiting me. I did not know that. Which explains why, A, he was kind of pushing the idea on me, and B, when I asked him pointed questions about things, he was very guarded with his answers if it was going to reveal a negative side of it. But this was enough to get me interested. So I called Mac, and I talked to them, and I talked to Snap-on at the time too, because I didn't know how it made sense to move forward, because I really didn't know anything about the franchise tool business. And as I asked questions of Mac, they also were not forthcoming, revealing all the things I was interested in knowing. When I went back to my buddy here with questions I had, he was also really guarded with revealing the downside. And he said, look, here's what really happens is you're going to be at a point where you're going to make a decision one way or the other. He said, just know that a lot of people make the decision to do it. They all make a living at it. It's not a difficult business to do. He said, and you got to take a leap of faith at some point. I'm like, well, all right. Why not? Right? And I went ahead and I signed on board and bought a Mac franchise. And I very quickly realized what the downsides were to being a franchisee. I was pigeonholed into only being able to sell their products. My costs were fixed. My pricing was fixed. It was very limiting to not be able to offer brand choice. If a customer came on my Mac truck and they wanted a half-inch air impact, the only thing I could offer them was the Mac branded half-inch air impact. And if they didn't like the price, or they didn't like the specs, or the warranty, or whatever, I was out of luck. So I very quickly saw the limitations here. And I'm not the kind of person to try to convince them that they got to buy the Mac one, right? Because that's what you get with a lot of other franchisees. They don't have a brand choice. So if you get on their truck and you don't like their offering, they're now in a position to have to convince you that the product they're showing you is the best one you can possibly buy, even if it's not. Because if they don't sell it to you, they don't sell it. Or that's just a sale they see just slip right through their fingers, and that makes sales guys very nervous. And I hated being in that position. I'm like, why? I should be able to offer a brand choice. Why can't I sell Ingersoll or Earcat or Astro Pneumatic or Sunex or these brands? Well, because I signed an agreement with Mac saying I can't do that. I mean, no, I didn't like that very much. But, I understood the agreement. So about a year into my franchise ownership, one guy who was really my mentor and I were out to dinner, just kind of getting caught up on stuff, and I told him what was going on. I told him my frustrations, and he said, you need to call this guy. And he gave me contact information for an account rep at a company called Integrated Supply Network, ISN, who is a very large tool distributor here in North America, as well as a company called Medco, New Tool, that's NEU Tool, and Eagle Tool. Very large tool distributors. They sell to tool retailers of all types. He said, call this guy. And he told me why, and he showed me some of ISN's offerings, and he showed me their product lines. I'm like, well, this looks like it's pretty good. So I called this guy, and I got an account set up, and I started making a few small purchases, mostly for gear wrench stuff, because I knew that was a competitive brand with Mac. And And I got enough of a relationship going with ISN that they paid for me to go out to a tool show. And I learned a lot of that tool show. When I went there and I saw all the vendors that were set up and all their booths and the incentives they had for dealers to make purchases, I kind of liked what I saw. I was interested in exploring going independent in this business. And about an hour into being there, my account manager found me. We finally met in person, and he introduced me to a guy who was an independent person who had been a Snap-on guy for 10 years. And then he decided to be an independent guy, and for the last 5, he was independent. So he and I struck up a conversation, and he told me, he said, this is the best decision I ever made. And he told me why it was so awesome. And I said, well, what about the brands and the choices and, the tools that we're buying here? And he goes, don't worry about it. These are great tools. They're equal or better in quality. Pricing's way better. He gives me his whole take on things. I liked what I heard. And this got my mind thinking a lot because there's been a huge influx of information at this show. And then I went and I talked to my Mac buddies who were also attending the show, and I asked them, I said, have you guys ever thought about going independent? And their answers ranged from, yes, but I decided not to no, I never really did. And they all had their reasons why, and all made sense to me, but I kept thinking that there's a better way to do business. There's a better way for me to grow a company. There's a better way for me to offer choices to customers than being bound to a franchise. Now, in that same tool show, I walked up to one vendor booth. There's a vendor called SP Air. They make air tools, and they had on their table this cutoff tool, and it's the 3-position adjustable head tool. And there's a unique design element on their body of this tool. They have a rubber cover, and there's 3 scalloped cuts in that cover. And I looked at this, and I said to the vendor rep, I said, why does this look exactly like the one I sell on my Mack truck? They said, because it is. And I said, I don't understand. And he explained the idea of third-party branding to me. They're a manufacturer, and they build these tools. And companies like Mac and whoever else can go to them and they'll say, yeah, we want to buy, that cutoff tool. Give us a price for 100,000 units or whatever. And they do. And they just stick their name on the body cover, and they send it to Mac, and Mac pays for a bazillion of them at once or whatever it is. He said, and that's how third-party branding works. And I said, I did not know this existed. So as I made my way through the tool show and I talked to other vendors, I asked them the question of who do you manufacture for? The answers surprised me, and I got all kinds of interesting stories about how that all works. And I realized that very few of these franchise tool companies make their own stuff anymore. Mac doesn't. Stanley makes most of their stuff, or they buy it third party. Matco, I don't think, makes any of their own tools anymore. I think they make some of their boxes and carts. Snap-on, they do have some of their own manufacturing, but a lot of the stuff is third-party branded. A lot of stuff they get from, Lang and OTC and all these other companies. And I think Cornwell has a foundry where they make some of their pry bar shafts, and I think some of their sockets. But for the most part, this whole industry is these tool brands buying tools from these manufacturers who just slap a brand on it and send it to them. And now I'm really thinking this through about becoming independent. And later that year, I went to my first Mac Tools show. And as I went to the expo center, I walked up to a booth that sold pry bars. And I see all the Mac branded pry bars on this booth. But the rep who was standing in the booth had a shirt that said Mayhew. And behind her was a banner that said Mayhew. And I said, I don't understand. You're a Mayhew rep, but these are Mac tools. She said, yeah, we manufacture Mac's pry bars for them. And she just drove home what I had already learned from SP Air and Lang. And now I started to get a better understanding. Because when I first talked to vendors about this, it's a ton of information. I'm trying to process it all. And, it's falling into place. But, what she said to me really sent it all home. And when I looked at the pricing, I saw that what they were selling to me as a Mac dealer was higher than what I could buy if I bought these same products from ISN. So my mind's getting blown, and then I walked over to the Associated booth, and they sell battery chargers and things, and I talked to him. They say, yeah, we manufacture Mac's chargers for him, and the Schumacher guys told me the same thing, and the Lyle guys told me the same thing, and I'm realizing Mac doesn't manufacture anything anymore, and I can buy all this stuff at the ISN show, and oddly enough, the reps who are in these booths at the Mac show are the same reps who are in the booths at the ISN show. So it's the same people. I'm dealing with the same vendors, the same products. I would save a bunch of money. I'm like, wow, this decision is making itself. So how do I justify to myself and my customers continuing to do business this way when there's a less expensive way for me to get more products and offer a brand choice that I can't offer if I stick with Mac? So I put my exit strategy in place, and about a year later, I had everything worked out where I terminated our franchise agreement with Mac. I had let our customers know what was going to happen long before it happened, and people were all good with it. I really only had one question from a customer who wondered about how such an arrangement would affect the quality of the tools and the brands, and I told him, and he was good with the explanation. Nobody else really cared. They all liked the idea. They all loved that they felt like they could spend less on the same tools. And the transition was very smooth as a result. Once I started as an independent guy, I found that there's this program that Gear Wrench has called the Street Team Program, and my reps at ISN told me about it. They said, when you're ready to go independent, let us know. They said, you got to terminate your agreement with Mac, and then we can get you on this other program where if I make a purchase of so many thousands of dollars worth of tools from Gear Wrench branded stuff through ISN, they said, ISN will pay for a wrap for your truck. I said, well, that's handy. I need the extra tools anyway as I'm building up my inventory. So I signed on board with this program, which really wasn't much of a commitment for me. They just want me to buy some of their tools every year, and they'll put a wrap on my truck. I said, all right. So they did that. So I got a Gear Wrench wrap. So I transitioned from the Mac branded truck to a Gear Wrench branded truck, and gave me instant recognition right away. Start stocking up on the ISN supplied tools, so I could put Sunex and Gray Pneumatic and Lyle and Titan and OTC and Gear Wrench and all these other brands on the truck. Milwaukee, of course, is our huge power tool line. But for the first time now, I could go to a customer with a brand choice, and if they wanted something, I could say, well, sure, do you have a brand that you prefer? And if they do, great. If they don't, I can offer them suggestions based on price or warranty or spec or something, and give them some way to choose what they want. And it's a much, much better way to do business, come to find, than being a franchise guy who's limited in what I can offer. And as this stuff becomes more prevalent, I have found that there's a lot of other franchise guys who buy from ISN and Medco and these other distributors because they can't afford not to. And yeah, they're violating their franchise agreements, but in order to be competitive, they've got to be able to do it, because it really doesn't do any favors to the Snap-on guy if I roll into a shop and guys buy a $200 wrench set from me, and he's got his $500 wrench set. Or they buy that $350 digital torque wrench and he's got a $700 digital torque wrench. Who's going to get the business? I'm going to get it most of the time, because brand and quality and price dictate. And people looking to save money every chance they get. There's no better feeling in the world that I get when I roll into a shop for the first time. So if I'm doing a cold call in a new shop, I love it, because first thing I do is I go in, I find the manager, talk to him, introduce myself, let him know, what I'm all about. He usually loves what he hears because he wants his guys to save money on tools. So his first reaction is, yeah, come on in. You're welcome to come by every week, meet the guys. And he takes me out to the shop. I introduce myself. I hand out a flyer that's 118 pages long that lasts for 3 months. When I was and my margins are better in the flyer, and the prices are lower than my competitors' flyers. When I was a Mac guy, I handed them, a 13-page flyer that was good for a month at a time at a margin that I could barely make it on. And it's a much better way now, because I can hand out a flyer. It's really a catalog. And you're not going to breeze through this in one setting. You're going to really want to look at it. The flyers are good for 3 months at a time. So with the Mac stuff, I hand it to a guy. I'm like, you got 4 weeks, at the most, right? Because I'm not going to hand it out to everybody as soon as they come in. If I'm handing these guys on a Friday, which is the end of the first week, they've got 3 weeks. So now the pressure's on. Why do I want to do that? I don't want to pressure somebody to make a purchasing decision. This way I can say, you know, make sure you hang on a flyer, breeze through it whenever you want. Pricing's good for 3 months. No rush. All the stuff will be there. And it's a much lower pressure way of doing business. It's one that I prefer vastly over how I was doing business. And it's much easier for me to apply my passion for business because I can grow however I want to grow. I can take on whatever shops I want to take on. I get to pick and choose who my customers are. I don't have to see shops if there's no business there or if there's bad business there. I can pick and choose. I can define my own operating territory. I can make my own route. And as we look to continue to grow, and here's a little plug, by the way, if you are looking for a change and you want to be a tool guy, talk to me, because I've got a second route right now that's been established. There's receivables out there. There's money to be made. All I need is someone to come on board, take a truck, go out there and do it. So if you've got a background in mechanics or you have a background in tools or sales, I'd like to talk with you. I think it might be worth your while. I actually have 3 trucks. The other ones are sitting idle right now. So the plan is bring somebody in, operate the second truck, and then I'll develop another route, bring somebody in, operate that one, and just keep it rolling that way. Eventually, I want to open up a storefront where I can sell tools and firearms and have 4 trucks or so on the road, use the truck's revenue ability to fund the inventory for the stores and the trucks, use the store's buying power to buy at lower cost and to purchase stuff directly from a lot of manufacturers and lower the prices and the cost on the truck, but keep the influx of business from the trucks fueling the store, just kind of keep this wonderful cycle going. It's not a difficult business at all. There's plenty of business to be had, and all it takes is someone to want to come and do it with us. So come on board. You can go to our website, coyletools.com, look at the careers link, and there's a quick little blurb on the job, and then there's a quick little application. Just fill it out, submit that, and we'll go from there if you're interested. I'd love to talk with you if you've got that kind of interest in it. And we'll just keep it rolling because building this business has been a ton of fun. I like being able to think of new ways to do things. I love being able to provide value to our customers that I know our competitors can't provide because they're limited or prohibited by their franchise agreements. And we don't have that kind of limitation. It's been great. So we just kind of watch business continue to grow. And right now we're kind of maxed out because there's only one of me out on the trucks, but that's when we need some people. So hopefully, you or someone is interested. We can make something happen, and we'll keep growing it from there. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this was valuable and worthwhile information for you. We've got a lot of other videos coming up, which run the gamut in content. We've got our new unboxing videos that do singular reviews on tools. We also have our popular quarterly flyer drop videos, as well as our every popular Tools in the Hall videos. So do me a favor, click down here now to subscribe so you don't miss any of it. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, use a tool. Don't be one.